So you think this silence is all wrong? You think it's a scam, a waste of time, something that won't work? Well, let me ask you, who planted that thought in your head? Was it your mind whispering doubts? Was it their behavior when you have gone silent? Or was it both? Oh, I see it now. It's because you can't see it happening yet, can you? You can't see a change in them. You think silence isn't hitting them. You think it's pointless. And, oh my friend, how wrong you are. You believe this is about them, don't you? Let me ask you again, who poisoned your mind with that idea? Who convinced you that every ounce of your energy should revolve around their validation? And more importantly, why do you still care? Why do you care if they notice, if they miss you, if they choose you? Don't you see what this chase has done to you? The begging, the chasing, the hoping, they've turned you into a shadow of yourself. Why don't you see it? And if you do, then let me ask, why aren't you acting on it? If you're sitting there thinking this silence is about making them miss you, making them see your worth, you've got it twisted. Let me break it to you. This silence is not about them. No, it's about you. It's about breaking free from their little game, about refusing to dance to the tune they've played for so long. It's about becoming untouchable. It's about finally ripping off the label of the doormat they've stomped on and setting fire to their script. If you've been watching other advice, thinking this is about manipulating them into loving you, stop right there. That's poison. Those channels, those voices, they're feeding you lies, teaching you how to keep crawling while pretending it's power. But here, we're going to rewrite the rules, flip the game, and take back the power. Because this silence, it's not a game for them. It's a revolution for you. Silence is your weapon, but not for hurting anyone. It's for healing you. It's a mirror that shows you the truth. They don't deserve your time. They don't deserve your energy, your chase, or even your thoughts. And when you decide to go silent, understand that it's not about punishing them. It's about rising. It's about thriving. It's about proving to yourself that you are always enough. And still, you might wonder, will it affect them? Oh, it will. But here's the funny part. It's not about their suffering. It's about their shock. You see, when you were begging for their attention, they laughed. Not in front of you. No, they wore the perfect mask. But behind that mask, they mocked you. Even after I reject them, they still run after me? That's what they thought. And they used you like a puppet, pulling strings, knowing you'd jump whenever they tugged. As Tony Gaskins so cleverly put it, and trust me, he nailed it. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. And when you reinforce silence, oh my friend, that's when the tables start to turn. Right now, you might not see it, but silence is the loudest lesson they'll ever learn. It's not just a pause, it's a mirror. And when they look into it, they'll see the emptiness of their games, the cracks in their control, and the void you've left behind. That's power. That's when they realize you're not their puppet anymore. You're the master of your own stage. Now think about a door. Not just any door. A door that you've been banging on for years. You're bruising your knuckles, screaming to be let in. But guess what? No one's behind it. They left ages ago. The real question is, how long will you stand there before realizing the door leads nowhere? Silence is you walking away, leaving the door to rot in its own emptiness. But now, when you've gone silent, when you've decided you're done playing their game, oh my friend, the joke's on them. They'll pull the strings again, expecting you to dance. And when nothing happens, it'll hit them harder than you can imagine. Their smug little world will start to crack. They'll feel the weight of your absence like a scream in an empty room. Silence was never in their playbook. It's the move they never expected. Imagine this. They sit there, pulling at strings that no longer connect to you. They wait for the predictable, and what they get is nothing. That void? That's what eats away at them. Because silence isn't just quiet. It's a roar they can't control, a storm they can't escape. And now, the tables have turned. They're the ones chasing, the ones wondering, what happened, cow? Where did I lose them? But hey, stop here. Don't think about them. They don't deserve your time, and that is not our path. As this silence isn't about revenge, it's about transformation, and you don't damn care about them. And this silence, it's about becoming untouchable. It's about showing yourself that you're no longer someone's fallback option. You're no longer someone who waits around for scraps of affection. You're the storm they'll never forget. You are a force, a fire, a presence so powerful they'll regret the day they ever thought you'd be a backup plan. And if you're ready for this transformation, if you're ready to turn their laughter into silence, then write this down in the comments. My silence is my strength. Say it, type it, and claim it. Declare loud and clear in the comments. And this time, write it for yourself, as you don't care if they see it or not. Because it was never about them, it is about you, and only you. Let this be the moment you take back your power. And while you're at it, hit that like button, subscribe, and join our community, and it's free, so why not? And this isn't just a video. This is your wake-up call. You are unstoppable. You are untouchable. You are enough. And now, let's dive into the journey of your transformation. Number 1. The silence reset. Why it's not about them. So let's strip it all down to the truth. This silence, it's not about them. It never was. You've been walking around thinking, will they notice me? Will they miss me? As if their reaction is what defines your worth. But let me tell you something hard to hear. They don't deserve your silence if it's only being used to make them see you. This silence is about you. It's about hitting the reset button on the mental chaos they've caused. It's about stepping away from their games, their manipulations, and all the noise they bring into your life. Silence is your sanctuary, your clean slate, and most importantly, your greatest weapon, but not to harm them. Oh no, this weapon is to rebuild you. Imagine standing in front of a shattered mirror. Every crack represents a piece of yourself you lost while chasing them, while trying to prove your worth. You've been staring at that broken reflection for far too long, thinking that if you fix it, they'll finally see you. But here's the harsh truth. They don't care about the cracks. They're not even looking. Now, silence? It's the moment you stop trying to fix the mirror for them and let it reflect you. It's the moment you realize that the cracks aren't your failures, they're your story. And the person staring back isn't broken, they're transforming. As Confucius so cleverly put it, oh, and trust me, he nailed it. He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior. And when you conquer your silence, oh my friend, you'll realize it was never about winning a fight with them. It was about winning the battle within. Silence is your battlefield. It's where you slay the doubts, insecurities, and fears they planted in your mind. It's where you become untouchable. But how will silence change anything, you might ask? Let me tell you, silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's the presence of power. Picture this. You're at a concert, the music's blasting, and everyone's moving to the rhythm. Suddenly, the music stops. The silence that follows. It's deafening. It's unmissable. That's the kind of silence you're stepping into. When you go silent, you're not just walking away. You're leaving a void. A void they can't ignore. You're stepping off their stage, turning their spotlight into darkness. And the funny thing? They'll feel it. Oh, they'll feel it. But here's where the real magic happens. You're not doing it for them. The silence is your song, and you're the only one who needs to hear it. Now, let's get one thing straight. This silence isn't revenge. It's not about making them suffer. It's not about manipulating their emotions. It's about healing your own. Think of silence like a bandage on a wound. You've been bleeding out for far too long, giving every drop of yourself to someone who didn't even notice. Silence is how you stop the bleeding. It's how you let the wound heal without tearing it open again by running back to them. And while they're sitting there wondering why you've gone quiet, you're not plotting their downfall. You're rising from the ashes. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine you're a tree in the middle of a storm. The wind is their manipulation, their rejection, their indifference. For so long, you've bent to their every whim, trying not to break. But what happens when the tree stops bending? The storm loses its power. Your silence is that moment you stand tall. The storm rages, but it can't touch you anymore. And the best part, you're not standing tall for them, you're doing it for you. Still wondering why this isn't about them? Let me ask you this. What have they done to deserve your energy, your thoughts, your tears? Every moment you spend wondering if your silence is affecting them is another moment you're handing them your power. But when you stop caring, when you truly stop, you take that power back. And oh, how powerful that makes you. Silence isn't about them. It's about breaking free from their hold. As Marcus Aurelius once said, and believe me, this one stings if you think about it, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. And silence. It's not revenge. It's rising above. Now, let's talk about you, not them, you. This silence is your chance to reset. It's your chance to step back and ask yourself the real questions. Who am I without their validation? What do I want for myself? How can I rebuild stronger and untouchable? This silence is where you start to find those answers. And the more you focus on yourself, the less you'll care about their reaction. Because here's the truth, their reaction doesn't matter. What matters is how you feel when you stop chasing, stop begging, and start rising. So, my friend, are you ready to make this silence yours? Not theirs, yours. Are you ready to step away from their games, their drama, and their control, and finally reclaim your power? This silence isn't about them, it's about you. With every quiet moment, you're proving one thing. You are unstoppable. You are untouchable. You are enough. And if you're wondering what comes next, oh, stick around, because this is only the beginning. The silence is just the first step in your transformation, and where you're headed will leave them questioning everything. Hit that like button, and let's move forward. This is your journey, and it's just getting started. Number 2. The silent echo. Imagine a stage, dimly lit, where you've always been the performer. Every word you spoke, every action you took, was scripted for their applause. But suddenly, you step off. The lights stay on, the curtains remain open, and they stand there in the audience, confused, waiting. This is silence. It's the empty stage they didn't expect, the absence they can't explain. And the thing about silence? It echoes louder than any words ever could. At first, they don't notice. They'll dismiss it, brush it off, tell themselves, it's nothing, just a phase. But oh, my friend, silence has a way of creeping in, growing, gnawing at the edges of their certainty. You've removed their control and that absence. It's the sound they can't unhear. They were so used to your voice filling their world, so accustomed to the comfort of your attention, that when it's gone, it's like a missing heartbeat. They might not notice it immediately, but soon they'll feel like something's wrong. And here's the thing, you didn't do this to hurt them. That's what makes it even more powerful. Your silence isn't a calculated move to cause them pain. It's the result of your growth, your decision to step away, your refusal to play the part they wrote for you. But the beauty of silence, it still hits them harder and deeper than anything you could have said. They expected anger, they expected drama, but silence leaves them nowhere to hide. Think about how they operated when you were chasing. You were predictable, always there, always ready to respond, always available. And they thrived on that predictability. They pulled the strings, and you danced. But now, when they pull the strings and nothing happens, that's when the panic sets in. Silence forces them to face the one thing they've been running from all along, themselves. You've given them a mirror, not a physical one, but an emotional one, and it's the kind they can't avoid. Every time they think about your absence, they're forced to confront their own actions, their own flaws. That's the power of silence. It makes them the star of a show they never wanted to see. Let me tell you something else about silence. It's a teacher. Not for you, you've already moved forward, but for them. It teaches them what they lost. When you were chasing, they saw you as a constant, like a river they could always drink from. But now the river has dried up, and they're left parched, searching for what they thought would always be there. Silence creates scarcity, and scarcity creates value. But here's the best part. You're not doing any of this for them. You're not sitting there, counting the days, wondering if it's working. Because remember, it's not about them. The echo of your silence, that's their journey to navigate. You've already left the stage. Now, don't misunderstand me. This isn't about revenge. It's not about sitting back and hoping they'll suffer. No, my friend, it's much bigger than that. Silence doesn't punish them. It transforms you. And yet, unintentionally, it does something profound to them. It breaks the cycle of predictability. It removes their safety net. They were used to you being there, and now they're left wondering why you're not fighting, why you're not reaching out, why they're not as important as they thought they were. Let's not forget the psychological toll silence takes on someone who thrives on control. They'll try to fill the void you left. They'll replay the moments you shared, dissect your last words, stalk your online presence, all in an attempt to figure out what's changed. But here's the truth. What's changed is you. They're not chasing answers about your silence. They're chasing the version of you they lost, the version who let them take the lead. And that version, they're gone. Think of it like a song. When the music stops, the silence that follows is deafening. It's the contrast that makes it unbearable. And that's what silence does. It contrasts with the noise you used to make. And in that contrast, they feel the weight of your absence. The laughter they used to enjoy now feels hollow. The control they used to wield now feels meaningless. They wanted the chase, but not this kind of chase. The kind where they're running after nothing but echoes. And what's next? Oh, they will try to pull you back. Maybe not now, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. Because silence isn't just absence, it's a magnet. It draws them in because it makes them question themselves. It creates a curiosity they can't ignore. Why aren't they calling? Why aren't they texting? What are they doing? Who are they with? The questions will echo louder in their mind than your words ever did. But here's the key. You're not waiting for them to come back. You're not checking your phone, not waiting for that notification, not wondering when or if they'll reach out. That's the difference between silence as power and silence as manipulation. Yours is power because it's rooted in self-respect. You're not playing a game, you've already won. And the prize? It's not them, it's you. And my friend, this point, the silent echo, is just information, something you notice but never hold on to. You have nothing to do with what happens on their side, because let's be clear, you don't care. This journey has never been about them, it's about you. Your transformation starts right now. So, are you ready to unlock the power that's been quietly waiting within you? What happens when you finally realize, I am unstoppable, I am untouchable, I am enough? What does life become when you're free of their control, their drama, their shadow? Hit that like button if you haven't already, and let's move forward. The next step? It's all about you. And believe me, it's the one you've been waiting for. Number 3. Detachment is power. Imagine carrying a rope tied to a heavy boulder. Every step forward, you drag its weight with you, straining, struggling, hoping it will somehow lighten. Now, what if I told you that you've been holding this rope for no reason, that all you have to do is let it go? That's what detachment is. It's not about leaving them behind. It's about freeing yourself. And oh, my friend, when you let go, the world opens up in ways you never imagined. You've been taught to care too much about their opinions, too much about their actions, too much about their approval. It's been drilled into you. If you care enough, they'll notice. If you try harder, they'll value you. But has it worked? Be honest. All it's done is tether you to their games. And the harder you pull for them to see your worth, the tighter the rope gets around your freedom. Let me tell you something harsh but liberating. Detachment is the key to your power. Not because it makes them miss you or crave you. No, that's just a side effect. Detachment works because it shifts the focus back to where it belongs, on you. Think of detachment as stepping out of the storm. When you're chasing them, begging for attention, or even holding on to the hope of being chosen, you're standing in the middle of their chaos. The wind howls, the rain lashes at you, and they stand there watching, unmoved. Detachment is when you step out of that storm and let it rage without you. Suddenly, the noise doesn't matter. The storm doesn't touch you. And they're left standing in the mess they created. Now, let's address the fear that keeps you tied to that rope. You might be thinking, if I detach, won't they forget me? Won't I lose everything? But here's the truth. You're not losing anything by detaching. You're gaining yourself. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring altogether. It means you stop needing their validation to feel whole. It means you finally realize that their presence or absence doesn't define your value. Epictetus once said it best, sharp, simple, and so painfully true. Man is disturbed not by things, but by the views he takes of them. Your suffering isn't coming from their actions. It's coming from the meaning you've attached to them. Detachment is the act of ripping that meaning away and replacing it with one simple truth. You are enough just as you are. Picture this. You're walking through a garden, carrying a bucket full of water. Every step, the bucket spills a little. The more you focus on reaching the end without losing water, the more frantic you become. But when you stop, when you simply let the water spill, you realize something. They were never watching you in the first place. The garden didn't care. And that's the secret. You've been spilling your energy for people who aren't even paying attention. Detachment is setting the bucket down and deciding the water is yours to keep. Here's where detachment gets even more powerful. It forces you to turn inward. All that energy you wasted on them, now it's yours. Yours to build, to grow, to heal. Detachment is the foundation for everything you'll become, because it clears the space for you to focus on the only person who truly matters in this journey, yourself. But let's not sugarcoat this. It's not easy. Detachment takes practice. It's not a switch you flip. It's a decision you make every single day. When your mind wanders back to them, when the old patterns of chasing creep in, you'll need to remind yourself, this is about me. And let me tell you, something magical happens when you detach. You stop reacting. You stop waiting. You stop giving them the satisfaction of controlling your emotions. And in that stillness, in that quiet power, you start to see yourself clearly for the first time. Not as someone chasing scraps of affection, but as someone who commands their own attention. So, my friend, are you ready to let go of the rope? Are you ready to stop standing in the storm? Detachment is the act of reclaiming your peace, your power, your life. And when you take that first step, you'll wonder why you ever held on so tightly in the first place. And here's where the real journey begins. Detachment isn't the end. It's the door you walk through to discover the strength that's been waiting inside you all along. What happens when you stop wasting your energy on people who never deserved it? What does life become when you finally redirect all that power into yourself? Hit that like button if you haven't already, and let's keep moving forward, because the next step dives even deeper into your transformation. And trust me, it's one you won't want to miss. Number 4, the unexpected shift, when silence forces them to chase. Imagine a fisherman casting his net every day, confident that the fish will always swim into it. For weeks, months, or even years, you've been that fish, predictable, easy to catch, always responding to their bait. But now, you're not there anymore. They cast their net, and it comes back empty. They check the waters, but they can't find you. This is the unexpected shift your silence creates. You see, they've built their confidence, their ego, on the certainty of your reactions. Every time you called, texted, or even thought about them, you reinforced their control. They knew you'd always be there, waiting for the crumbs they decided to toss your way. But now they're standing there, holding an empty net, realizing that the game they've played so effortlessly has come to a screeching halt. What's fascinating about this shift is that it doesn't happen immediately. At first, they'll dismiss your silence. They'll tell themselves, oh, they're just upset. They'll come around. But as the days stretch into weeks, as the silence grows louder, something begins to change. That confidence? It starts to crack. That smug certainty. It turns into doubt. They'll wonder, why aren't they reacting? What changed? And this isn't about you trying to make them chase. Let's be clear, your silence isn't a ploy or a trick. It's a decision to stop giving your energy to someone who hasn't earned it. But the irony is, that decision flips the entire dynamic. They become the ones analyzing every move, questioning every moment, trying to figure out what went wrong. And the answer? You stopped playing their game. They'll try to provoke you, subtly at first. A "hey, just checking in" text, a reaction to your story on social media, a reminder of some inside joke, something meant to tug at your heartstrings. But these aren't gestures of love or regret. No, these aren't grand gestures of reconciliation or remorse. These are fishing lines thrown into the water, desperate attempts to see if you'll bite. And here's where your power lies. You don't. You don't respond. You don't react. You don't give them the satisfaction of knowing they've gotten to you. Instead, you stay still, steady, and silent. This shift isn't something they planned for. It's the one move they didn't see coming. They were so sure they had you figured out, convinced that you'd always be there, that your silence feels like a rug pulled out from under them. They're left fumbling, scrambling to regain the control they once held over you. But the game has changed, and they're no longer the ones in charge. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a puppet master standing on a stage, pulling strings with the audience watching in awe. For years you were that puppet, responding to every tug, dancing to their rhythm. But now the strings are cut, and the puppet is gone. They're left on stage, alone, pulling at strings that no longer connect to anything. And that empty stage? That's what haunts them. You'll notice their efforts growing more frantic. A breadcrumb here, a cryptic post there, something designed to make you wonder, to tempt you into breaking your silence. They'll try to dangle the same bait they've always used: nostalgia, guilt, even curiosity. But the truth is, they're not doing this because they care. They're doing it because they've lost control. And here's the best part. You're not waiting for them. You're not sitting by the phone, hoping they'll reach out. You've already moved forward, already taken back your energy. Their chase is a reaction to your growth, not a validation of it. And the more you focus on yourself, the less their attempts will matter. But don't let this shift distract you. When they start chasing, it's easy to feel tempted, to wonder if this means they've changed. It doesn't. This isn't about them wanting you back. It's about them wanting to feel the power they lost. And if you give in, if you break your silence to give them the reaction they're fishing for, the cycle starts all over again. Don't fall for it. Stay silent. Stay strong. This unexpected shift is a reflection of your power. Your silence has done what words never could. It's forced them to confront the reality of your absence. But remember, their reaction isn't your focus. Their chase isn't your victory. Your silence isn't about them. It's about you. So, my friend, as they tug at the strings that no longer bind you, stay grounded in your growth. Keep walking your path, because this shift isn't the destination. It's just another ripple in the transformation that's already underway. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and let's move forward. What comes next? Oh, that's the part you've been waiting for. And trust me, it's all about you. Number 5. Becoming the unreachable, building the new you. Silence isn't just a pause, it's the start of a new version of you. It's the space where the old you dissolves and something stronger, brighter, and completely untouchable begins to emerge. You see, the silence you've embraced isn't the end of the story, it's the ashes. And from those ashes, you rise. Think of yourself as a phoenix. Every piece of the old you that broke, bent, or gave too much has burned away, leaving behind only the raw, indestructible core of who you truly are. And this, my friend, is where you begin to rebuild. The question is, who are you without their influence? That's the question that silence answers. For so long, your identity has been tied to their opinion of you, their validation, their approval. You bent yourself into shapes that fit their expectations, played roles to keep the peace, and dimmed your light to avoid casting a shadow over them. But now, you stand on your own, and their shadow no longer defines your outline. This is your moment to decide, not who they want you to be, but who you truly are. Redefining your identity starts with understanding one crucial truth. You were never incomplete without them. Every strength you needed was already within you, hidden beneath layers of self-doubt and the constant need to prove your worth. Silence peels back those layers. It shows you that your value isn't something they get to decide. Your worth doesn't hinge on their recognition or approval. It was there all along, waiting for you to claim it. But recognizing your value isn't enough. Now, it's time to level up. And leveling up means pouring all the energy you used to spend on them into building the best version of yourself. Start with your physical growth. Hit the gym, take those long walks, or pick up that sport you've always wanted to try. There's something transformative about strengthening your body. It's not just about the mirror, it's about the discipline and confidence that come with it. When you take care of your body, you send a message to yourself. I am worth the effort. Emotional growth is next. This means setting boundaries and sticking to them. It means healing old wounds without reopening them to prove something to someone who doesn't matter. Journaling, meditation, and therapy aren't just buzzwords. They're tools that help you understand your emotions and control them, rather than letting them control you. When you master your emotions, you become unshakable. You stop reacting to their breadcrumbs or provocations because, frankly, you've outgrown their games. Then comes mental growth. Read the books that challenge your perspective, learn the skills that excite you, and dive into the hobbies that ignite your passion. The more you grow mentally, the less room there is for their nonsense. You're too busy becoming exceptional to worry about whether they're paying attention. And here's where it gets really interesting. As you transform, you naturally become unreachable. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're genuinely focused on things that matter, things that have nothing to do with them. Your silence shifts from being a reaction to their behavior to being the foundation of your new identity. You don't explain your absence. You don't overshare your growth. You let them wonder. Think of it like this. Mystery is magnetic. The less they know, the more they'll want to know. While you're building, they're watching, confused, curious, and completely out of the loop. But here's the beauty of it. You don't care if they're watching or not. You're no longer living to be seen. You're living for yourself. This transformation isn't about showing them what they've lost. It's about discovering what you've gained. Confidence, independence, self-respect. These aren't just traits you put on like a mask. They're the result of every small step you take toward becoming the person you were always meant to be. Confidence isn't loud. It's not about boasting or proving a point. It's in the way you carry yourself, the way you make decisions without second-guessing, the way you move forward without looking back. And as you grow, you'll notice something incredible happening. The opinions and actions of others, especially theirs, will start to feel insignificant. What used to consume your thoughts will become background noise. You'll realize that their validation was never worth the effort you put into chasing it. The only validation that matters is your own. Building the new you also means embracing boundaries. You no longer have to explain yourself or justify your decisions. Silence is not just your power, it's your boundary. It's a way of saying, you don't have access to me anymore. And that boundary, it's not there to punish them. It's there to protect you, to protect the energy you're now using to build, grow, and thrive. Becoming the unreachable isn't about arrogance or revenge. It's about stepping so fully into your own power that you no longer need their attention, their approval, or even their presence. It's about realizing that the person you're becoming is so much greater than the version of you they knew. And they no longer matter in the equation. Picture it. The phoenix doesn't rise from the ashes to prove to the fire that it survived. It rises, because that's what it was always meant to do. And you, my friend, are rising, stronger, brighter, and completely untouchable. So, here's the question. Are you ready to step fully into this transformation? Are you ready to embrace the mystery, the confidence, the strength that's been waiting inside you all along? This isn't about becoming someone they'll notice. This is about becoming someone you're proud to be. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and let's move forward, because the next chapter is all about living this transformation unapologetically. And trust me, this is where everything changes. Number 6. The silence trap. When they try to re-enter. Oh, they'll come back. They always do. But don't mistake their return for regret, because it's not. Their return isn't driven by love or remorse. It's driven by something much simpler, their ego. They'll test the waters, trying to see if the strings they once pulled still control you. It's not about missing you. It's about missing the power they had over you. They're not mourning your absence. They're mourning their control. Curiosity will creep in too. Your silence, your transformation, your complete disinterest. It eats at them. They can't handle being shut out of your world, left out of the narrative they thought revolved around them. They'll wonder what you're doing, who you're with, and why they no longer matter. And then there's fear. Oh yes, they'll realize you've moved on, that the grip they had on you has completely slipped. And nothing terrifies them more than the thought of losing the person they thought they'd always have. They're like moths drawn to a flame. But this time, you're the fire they can't touch. They'll hover, trying to inch closer, hoping to feel the warmth they once took for granted. But the closer they get, the more they'll realize they no longer have access to you. That fire? It's fueled by your strength, your growth, your transformation, and it burns far too brightly for them now. When they return, don't let their familiar moves fool you. A casual text, a nostalgic comment, a half-hearted apology that conveniently leaves out the damage they caused. These aren't signs of change. They're bait. They want to see if you'll bite, if you'll react, if they can pull you back into the patterns you've worked so hard to break free from. Here's how you respond. You don't. Stay neutral. Maintain your boundaries. Their return isn't a reason to open the door. It's a reminder to keep it firmly closed. You've done the work to detach, to rebuild, to transform. Don't undo it by falling for their games. They'll try to provoke a reaction, to draw you out, but your silence has already said everything it needs to. The trap they're setting is one they hope you'll fall into, but this time you're smarter, stronger, and untouchable. Let them see the fire, but don't let them close enough to feel its warmth. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and let's move forward, because this journey, it's all about protecting the power you've reclaimed, and trust me, it only gets better from here. Number 7. The grand transformation. Unstoppable, untouchable, unapologetic. This is your moment, the final act of your transformation. Everything you've done so far, the silence, the detachment, the rebuilding, has led to this. You've gone from being someone who knocked on their door, begging for a place in their world, to becoming the castle they can't even dream of entering. You're no longer the seeker, you're the destination. Think about where you started. You learned to use silence, not as a weapon against them, but as a tool to heal and reclaim your power. You detached from their validation, no longer letting their opinions shape your worth. And you rebuilt yourself into someone stronger, someone unshakable, someone untouchable. This is the grand transformation, not about revenge, not about them, but about rising into the person you were always meant to be. Your silence isn't just a reaction, it's your rebirth. Let them watch. Let them wonder. Let them try to understand what changed. But never, ever let them pull you back into the chaos you've risen above. This version of you doesn't need to explain, doesn't need to seek, and doesn't need to care. You are whole. You are powerful. You are free. This is it, folks. The silence, the detachment, the transformation. It was all leading here. You're not the person you were before. You've let go, you've risen, and you've become unstoppable. They can't touch you, and they never will. So hold your head high, embrace the power you found, and never look back. This is your story now, one of strength, self-respect, and unapologetic confidence. Hit that like button if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and I'll see you in the next video. Your journey continues.